Hello, I don't hear anything, but am I on? This is Talk Cosmos. And oh, I guess I am on. There was a little bit of glitch, but then it's Aquarius time. Pluto's in Aquarius. Today is January 28th. We have archetypal, and we have Kaleidoscope Visions. I wish I could redo this, but we're live. That's the whole process of life. Sometimes things don't work and we got to just remake it, like make lemonade out of lemons. Yes. Well, how much sugar do you want? Okay. Or maybe apple juice. I don't know. Maybe you're vegan. So today is Pluto Aquarius Shine in Your Power. We're regrouping our leadership, essentially, we might say, because it's teamwork. Aquarius has, well, we'll talk about more of it, but it is the collective consciousness. And yet we can shine, but we need to remember there's other people shining too. So let's make a kaleidoscope of color. Yeah, that's it. Well, we are now ready for our panel Kaleidoscope Visions, and we will bring on at the half hour our wonderful guest with a transit reading. Okay, thank you.
Associating current astrology transits to a real-life natal chart transit reading through the understanding of the sky's cosmic consciousness for navigating free will options, this is your Kaleidoscope Visions Panel.
I'm Sue Minahan, collaborating with guests weekly since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, workshop facilitator, and lecture speaker. I'm a Dwarf Planet University graduate, charter member of Kepler Astrology Toastmaster Club. I have an AA degree and a fine arts music degree in jazz. I'm a certified color energy life coach, a writer, artist, musician, and ardent mythologist, a student of esoteric philosophies and life.
I'm Amanda Pierce. I'm a soul-centered astrologer, blending intuition into my practice. I believe the universe is always working for our highest good and seek to empower my clients in our readings. I teach a 4-week series of empowerment-based meditation classes that connect you deeper into your own intuition and innate power. I work in communications with a passion for employee experience. I also have a BA in psychology. I'm passionate about healing and enjoy helping others create new realities and shift old paradigms.
And I am John Chenworth, an astrologer from Seattle, Washington. I grew up in southern Arizona and was so obsessed with mythology that I concretely imprinted the Greco-Roman pantheon into my psyche. I still see those gods and goddesses infused into everything around me. My experiences of working with developmentally disabled and resource students for many years as both teacher and mentor has given me a strong compassion for others and has seasoned me with an exceptional reconciling energy. I have more than 18 years experience reading natal charts and continue to enhance consulting techniques by attending workshops and conferences. I use a unique blend of evolutionary, archetypal, and traditional astrological methods to look for themes in the birth chart for us to explore. I also enjoy penning poems and exploring Washington State on road trips.
And like the Sufi poet Rumi says, you are the entire ocean in a drop.
Yes, just like that great picture back here. Yep, we're drop. Oh, what the ocean is amazing. Hello, my fellow drops.
Hello, lovely to be here with you.
It's good to be back.
It surely is. I look forward always to our ventures together. So this is Pluto. Have you been feeling a little different lately? For sure. Yes.
A little bit. Yeah.
A little bit. We're really starting to come into it, and I'm super excited about this period of Pluto and Aquarius from January 20th to September 1st, where before it dips back into Capricorn, because of what we're talking about today, the Sun conjunct Pluto as that ingress. So this is a really potent period.
It is, and Pluto is making a conjunction with all the personal planets, which it didn't last March when it first ingressed for those 2 months. It was just, it affected us on a collective scale, but this is personal. This is like, hello, my life. Well, let's see what the slides have to say. We could, Nate, thank you so much. So here are the websites for Amanda Pierce and John Chenworth and myself. So connect with us if you have any further questions. Pluto and Aquarius. Its ruler, not Pluto, but I did not put Uranus here, spins the opposite of all the other planets, including Earth, from east to west, and it's on its side. So the, it's horizontal, the axis.
It also has Shakespearean named moons. All the other planets have Roman Greek names, but Uranus has Shakespearean names. Another unique thing about the planet.
Oh, I love this. Isn't that interesting?
Really
Because
just weird. It's a weird planet.
yeah, it's like coming to Earth in a sense. It's like Uranus had its sun, Cronus, time that was on Earth more than just sky, Uranus and Gaia birthing and birthing and birthing. We could see that as far as humanity goes. Eventually, the cosmos had to have animals and life here. Amazing.
I have
That
an
gets
interesting
my
thought
mind
about
spinning.
Pluto and Uranus. Well, Uranus is up because, of course, it rules Aquarius, where Pluto just entered. Pluto rules the deepest part, the depths, the underworld, and Uranus rules the farthest away in the heavens. He's the god of the heavens. So it's like these extreme gods
Yes.
have come together somehow.
Yeah,
So
and
Earth
that's
might feel this pull, like, wow, everything's shaking a little bit, right?
and really it has everything to do with Taurus that has, I mean, about spirit coming into matter. So, and I know like Mayan astrology, they believe that there's people holding up the four corners of the earth so that, or the tree, the ceiba tree in Guatemala, that is the trunk holds the branches and where the tree, the trunk with the roots and the heavens, with the branches. Well, Aquarius as an archetype. Perhaps Amanda, do you want to start, or John, elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, Aquarius it's just all about tapping into what is unique and what is correct for you. That's what I love about Aquarius, and that sense of community where everybody is of equal value, and there's no one right way of doing things. It's really tapping into the group and all of everybody's unique abilities.
It does require that group communication and the whole process of the ego of self, which we need and we use, but realizing if everybody's equal, you got to listen, you got to hear what other people say and find some way to dialogue. Yeah. John?
And in this way, with community thinking, you can start to think outside the box. Like, what's the original idea? What's the radical thought? And Aquarius is totally open and welcome to that. It's the lightning strike of genius. That's pure Aquarius. And also, astrologer is kind of like Aquarius because astrology falls under that category.
Well, that's
Right.
true. It is that genius as an intuitive sign too, which I think, and I also often relate that to the fact that we think of lightning, which Uranus has, where it suddenly shows this tremendous view, and then it goes away when the light goes away. And so it's like insights that we just perceive inner self, but we want to elevate. That's the other part of Aquarius. It wants to bring things to a better condition for the collective.
Yeah, it's shifting.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It's shifting out of Capricorn, which is, a very structured, socially conscious sign, and moving into, well, how can we make this better? How can we make this society better? It is about society in the same way that Capricorn is. It's just Capricorn does it from a very like top down structured way. And Aquarius wants to say, no, let's rethink this. How do we improve on this? How do we think outside the box and make it better?
Yeah, working on what to decondition exactly. And there is a shadow side, which I didn't put here, but it is elitism. That's one of them, is to, or just not be grounded, because it can be, it's an air sign and it's fixed.
Not a water sign. People think it's water, but it's an air sign.
I know, it pours.
Right. And it's so lifted up that it might be out of connection with the reality on Earth. So that's one of the dark sides, I guess, of Aquarius.
Yeah, which this particular transit, we'll see later, has a lot of earth still, so it's grounding that.
Which is good.
Here, for the 0 degrees ingress in Aquarius on January 20th, and there's various times that you can read here. However, on the 21st at GMT in London, worldwide, it was actually on the 21st, 50 minutes after midnight. So in New York or Washington, D.C., it was about 8 o'clock, 7:50, 45 p.m. And in the West Coast, it was 4:50, 48 seconds p.m. So we'll just go on. Here is the chart. This is an Aries chart, folks, meaning that the time is set for that time. Oh, this happens to be in Honolulu, but still, so because that's where I am, not in Honolulu, but Kailua Kona in Hawaii. And yet we begin with Aries. So in other words, we're not looking at the houses. And you'll see that Pluto and the Sun were conjunct at the time that Pluto ingressed 0 degrees.
And what I love about this ingress chart and this period of time with Pluto in Aquarius is that it really personalizes the Pluto and Aquarius journey for everybody. Pluto's an outer planet, and so we don't often feel it on a personal level. But with the Sun here, we're really going to kind of get a feel of how this energy is going to be working for us over the next 20 years. And how we can kind of like shift who we are and how we're being asked to like evolve and become even more of our unique selves.
Yeah, it's a task in some ways because Aquarius is a fixed sign and it involves all the fixed. So, but I like the optimism, and that is part of the Aquarian, that there is a better light here. John?
Studying ourselves to get a deeper understanding of our uniqueness, perhaps, could be what's being asked to do. Like, what's your unique light to shine in the world? And maybe this is a chance to plumb the depths and find out what that is and then put it out there. Good time to do that kind of work.
Yeah, the aspects here are really involved, first of all, with that Sun-Pluto combination of transforming our ego. And it's in an action aspect square with Jupiter, our belief system. So immediately we're pondering, okay, what is that about? And Jupiter, meanwhile, is busy with a lot of action. It's in a flow with how we're thinking and wanting to act. And it's connecting with Saturn, which is, the two of them have this great relationship of expansion and contraction. So one says, yeah, it's bigger, let's collect this. And Saturn says, okay, but let's toss that and use that. Or in a connective energy, it's collaborative that way. It can be quite a growth process.
I was thinking Jupiter and Taurus being values, Jupiter, the expansion of those, and it's square. It's like, what are your values?
Oh, I know.
What do you bring? What's important right now? What really is important? And be careful, right?
And Taurus is also known for, liking to kind of just feel good and kind of relax into things and can get a little bit stuck sometimes. And so this Pluto Sun in Aquarius energy is like, you got to bust out of those habits and those stuck patterns. And so there can be a little bit of friction with that.
Indeed. And looking at these squares, which, remember, folks, that's like an action. It's drive, ambitions, which don't have to be bad unless you're plowing over somebody. And sometimes it is that kind of aggression where you don't really think about the other. So that's where the problem comes in. And here we have the moon, our personal sense, squaring exactly at 5 degrees, but they're mutable with Saturn, which is in Pisces. So it is really like, how's our personal fitting into the whole collective structure, you might say, but collective with the greater forces. It's pretty challenging.
I love that this square is mutable, because the fixed square is a little more challenging. They kind of butt heads a little bit more. Also, Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. And so it has some influence over this Sun Pluto Aquarius energy, and it being square the moon, like that's another very personal connection. So this is very personal. We've got the moon involved, we've got the sun involved. There's going to be a kind of a desire here to be shifting. And I love the moon in Gemini. It's kind of like, let's get curious about
Oh,
how we
yes.
want to shift. Like,
And
just
getting
be
involved
open.
in our local communities, Gemini being the local area.
Oh, that's good. Love that.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember because I know with Planet Buzz, I think we already did a session with Laura Tad that people can look at that really looked at Pluto in Aquarius as a whole hour talk, because it goes through all these personal planets. So I'm glad you're bringing this personal issue up. And Venus, which rules, because it's always like, who rules who? Is this tree of dispository, as we call it in astrology, and it's in action with Neptune. So really, again, it's the values. It's augmenting this whole process of values and stability, or with resources, with water and the greater cosmos.
And I love Venus, Neptune, that connection as a way to kind of dream into a new reality. Like it's so much imagination, so much creativity there. So just kind of let yourself dream and see where it takes you.
We have to be careful because it's a square. So beware of the sweet dreams. Don't get too carried away. Right.
That's true. There's
point.
always two sides of a coin.
Yeah.
That's right. Let's get it rolling.
So that made me think of the rhythmic song, maybe. Sweet Dreams.
Yeah. And then we have healing, because Chiron, the wounded healer, who really takes what is a personal demise, we might feel so strongly, but yet learns through these actions how to incorporate others, so that then it becomes a tool that we share, and we learn and we heal and they heal. It's very strong. So I was really glad. And Mars and Venus, of course, are ruling the nodes right now. So they're powerful, these personal planets.
And Chiron with the North Node is like the healing journey is just good for future growth. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's the right path to be on at this time.
And Chiron in Aries, North Node in Aries, like this is stepping into you as an individual and healing on that level. Like, and that really plays well with that, stepping into the uniqueness of your own gifting and how you shine in the world.
Right.
Perfect.
Being fierce about it because of Aries.
Yeah, and yes, identity. Yeah. Exactly. Well, here we have a few Sabian symbols that John will describe. Generally, just speaking, they were 1925 spiritualist medium Elsie Wheeler and astrologer Mark Edmund Jones. And it's about each one. And we're doing the ascendant, and I think you're going to do the moon and sun, but I only did those two. So people can read what it is. John, lead on, and I'll go ahead.
Well, the sun's at 21 Scorpio. We move it a degree forward, so it'd be 22 Scorpio. And that symbol for that degree is hunters shoot wild ducks. And that's to me about decision and execution and go ahead. So in this chart, the sun wants to just kind of take charge and do what it wants to do. The moon, not listed, is at 24 Leo, so we look at 25. A man crosses a hostile environment alone. So persistence, I can't say the word, relentlessness and drive. So the moon it's a very strong moon, and it wants to get things done, it sounds like. And the ascendant, was it 07 Aries, which is 08?
No, 8. It's 8, yeah. A large woman's hat with streamers. They're blowing through the, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I get the little thing of little ideas, inklings, and just your brain just coming up with ideas, being very creative, which is kind of a wonderful ascendant.
It is. And this idea that things change. And so remember to be centered, allow it, but don't get thrown off. It's
and these Sabian symbols are are specific to our guest coming up, correct?
Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Yeah, because the fact that oh, that's right. That is for not the, that's right, because our guest's sun is 21 Scorpio. Yeah. So here we go into the natal chart. Thank you very much, Amanda. That's why we're a team. We're listening. So here we have the natal chart, and there is a grand trine, which we'll also show in the next one, and a stellium in Sag. So there's a lot of in spirit, in inspiration, instinctiveness, just innately in this individual. And the primary luminaries are square. So there's a lot of action, how to use your, on an emotional level, using this, which means they're also not, they're fixed as it is. So there could be quite a process of working with that sun, that moon that has that full manifested, needs to achieve its actualization in Leo, but the sun in Scorpio is always rebirthing or recomposing. Like, is it deep enough? Is it, maybe, shamanic, actually. Go ahead. Who else?
There's a lot of fire in the chart, a lot of inspiration, a lot of, I'd like to inspire people perhaps, or maybe likes to shine a little bit. That's all right.
Yes, needs to.
It's a very warm chart to me.
A lot of creative energy with all of that fire, and kind of a lot of like big thinking energy too, that Sagittarius up there. And then the next slide is, I feel like, one of the really big pieces of this chart where we have,
let me I will just in a moment. I want to say though that Mars, that drive that is part of the next one, also is the ruling, because this person's going to have a nodal return later, which we'll talk about, because the Aries at New Year's, actually, I point out. So here is the square, but also the genius, innovation, and perhaps some sudden, with the opposition with Uranus in there. Okay, well, we'll go ahead. Go ahead, Amanda. You're on.
Yeah, so grand sextile here, which combines a grand trine of air and a grand trine of fire. And so you can see those outer dark blue or maybe purple lines, and that forms a hexagon. So it's sextiles all around the chart. And this is, it's really good energy, kind of very harmonized energy in a chart. And so there's great flow through all of this fire energy, the creativity, the passion, and the air, like lots of big thinking and mental connections. So with a grand sextile like this, it is so harmonized, and which means there's amazing flow, but you often need some dynamic tension to kind of help manifest things into reality. So that's
grounded with the earth. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a very, very big part of Metzel's chart here.
So before we go, John, if you had something, go ahead. But I noticed too that, because we're going into the bi-wheel, that there's a couple of improvements that this person's probably feeling because of last year that are just waning, or that are releasing. Because I know, being Scorpio too, there's a lot of all hunger for growth, transformation, power, and powerlessness. Because when you have relationships that are exchanging resources, you're empowered, and these would very much question how those were working, but now that's ending. One of them was a yod, which is where, and was with transiting Neptune, which was not in a harmonious, in conjunct is a matter of adjustment, constant adjustment. and it was between the moon and Mars. So it was the emotion and the mojo, the action that with Neptune was dissolving, 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 and perhaps attracting to spiritual ways of trying to reach in the 12th house. But that was going on mostly last January through March, and then again at the end of the year. But now it's waning. It's at 25 degrees and will not go back there. So it's always an improvement. The next one is that Mars that drives the fire. I mean, that drives this North Node in Aries is at 23 Libra. And the nodes were, again, this last October through December, smack on that for months and months, very intense. And eclipses too. So there was probably a lot of releasing. Both of these are very releasing energies. But now it's at 19, far away. So there we go. There's our bi-wheel, and we may have to talk a little bit after the break. Go ahead with both of the thoughts.
So inner chart here is Metzel's, outer chart is the Pluto transit, and I love that you brought up the Mars conjunction to the South Node, because that I feel like that Mars is a really big piece here. They've got a North Node in Aries, which means that they're moving from that South Node in Libra, which can often be people pleasing or caring what others think more, and so going more into that Aries of I want to do my own thing in this lifetime. And this with this all of this like fire and air, it's like Metzel has all of these big ideas and is very forward thinking, but then the Mars is back in Libra, and so there needs to be that balance between going their own way and figuring out how to partner with people and how to work with people in an appropriate way that still is true to who they are.
And in the chart, that will be supported very well. Everything you're saying clearly with the fact that the natal Uranus is conjunct by Venus that rules the South Node, and also Libra, that transiting node that's going on with Mars. And so there's a lot of sudden changes happening. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they just had a Venus return earlier in January too. So this is a whole new Venus period for them. Like, how are we doing that South Node differently? Because the South Node isn't a bad place. No. It's got tons of gifting. So and it coming up now on the exactly opposing their Chiron, and coming up on their Uranus is going to kind of help shift that a bit as well.
Yeah.
And that's the first house. And with Chiron there, it seems like the work wants to be done on identity and how they present themselves into the world. How I want people to see me, maybe.
As a healer.
Help me out a little bit, maybe. Yeah.
Healing. Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. And that's so perfect with the Pluto Sun period that we're moving into in Aquarius. And and that conjunction is right up in the 10th house. So like big visibility.
Oh, yes.
This is the career or the purpose house, how you're seen out in the world. So she's kind of like shifting that in some ways. And that Chiron looks like it's transit in the first house, looks like it's going to be very healing for that as well.
Yeah, quite a communicator too with communication. And before we take a break here, there's two transits that'll be pretty powerful. One is that Jupiter will be moving in February in a month, opposing that Pluto, which rules the sun, meaning that there's going to be a lot of more philosophical awareness of belief structures and how and to shift around. And then also those nodes that are transiting are going to go for a long time later this year. across the descendant with people and into the so that'll be very strong. And there's a eclipse, and at the end of the year will be that nodal return. So it's an ongoing relationship with self and others. And go ahead, John.
Lots of depth work. I just noticed that Jupiter will also be conjunct. I guess that's Sedna, which is that goddess from the depths of the ocean, right?
Oh yes, and it wants body work. I think in Taurus, it wants one to remember the body. So whether you heal, it'll be interesting to talk with Metzel and find out what's happening and what's going on. So shall we take our quick break and we'll come back? Okay, very good. Thank you, everybody. We'll be right back. I think that was an unanimous yes. And then we'll bring on Metzel. Thank you so much. January 28th.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the Yang period of Aquarius, ruled modernly by Uranus and Saturn in traditional astrology by the ancients. By leaving a cycle based on governing structures through both man-made and universal laws, Aquarius breaks established patterns, permitting the energy of freedom, just as its ruling planet Uranus spins on its side and orbits backwards. As a fixed air sign represented by the water bearer pouring the spirit of cosmic energy, Aquarius seeks to find like-minded, intuitively aligned souls to connect in social groups for the elevation and improvement of all.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to newprosupplements.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, February 4th, it's Shelter Rescue Sanctuary and anything that helps our animal friends Sunday. We'll check in with Meow Cat Rescue, Help Animals India, and animals around the world with animals247.org. Plus, we'll hear about all the great events and classes coming up at the Ananda Institute of Living Yoga. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Conversation you won't find on the rest of the dial. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hi, I want to say immediately at the half hour here, folks, sign up for your readings. The form is available. Go to talkcosmos.com. It's simply right there on the front page in several places with the panel and whatnot. And you just simply put in your name and then I'll get in touch with you. And because every fourth Sunday we have Kaleidoscope Visions and we had a full calendar. So I took it off for several months, but we're on and ready to take your calls. And we've had people from England. So it can be anywhere you are. It'll be wonderful. So, and also if you have any, do go to the web pages or URLs for consultations for either John, Amanda, or myself. So did anybody have anything they wanted to say, or should we bring on Metzel? Yay, let's do it. Metzel, join us. Hi.
Hello. Welcome.
Long time.
Hey, Metzel.
It's great to see you.
This is very interesting. When my chart came up, I was like, oh my God, that's me.
You are an astrologer. That's right.
Yeah, I know it's very interesting being on the other side of this, and it's like I haven't had this done for my chart in a bit. So yeah, it's very interesting. Thank you so much for looking at my chart.
What would you did you have is there anything that you would like to comment on, or I can ask some questions? Like I indicated that certain things might be feeling relief from last year. Perhaps there were a lot of changes with your um, uh, partnerships or people or relationships, or I don't know. Any comments? Tell us more what you might think.
Yeah, so I looking at it and then hearing what was said about my chart. I just started working for a nonprofit medical facility last year, and it was a huge change for me because I was working from home as a contractor for like 2 years. So getting back into like being around people and interacting with people it's been a huge thing for me. I also went through surgery, so my body took a toll also, and I'm kind of getting used to that still. I know that was mentioned. And on top of that, it was like this whole transformation of, do I want to be someone that voices my opinion and makes people upset? Or do I want to be the person that's just trying to do things by the rules or what is socially acceptable? And so I'm kind of getting used to this. Like, I'm just going to say what I'm going to say. And if it upsets someone, then they're not meant to hear what I say, type of thing. The other part of this transit that I noticed just from back here is the Sun and Pluto conjunction was on hexagram 60 of the I Ching, which is like you finding the restrictions and then using those restrictions as a springboard. And I can relate to that because there are a few things in my personal life that seem like restrictions. And for me, I'm like, how am I going to like make this look, expensive? How am I going to make this thing look nice? How am I going to transform with what I have? And so, yeah, like it's just really interesting. The other part of it too was the grand sextile, like seeing it. I've seen it before in my chart, didn't really think much of it. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's two mystic rectangles there. So I have a lot of restrictions just in that formation. And now it's just kind of hitting me seeing it here. But yeah.
We
It
think of the
is.
mystic rectangle not as like something heavy to lift, but like mystical building blocks. What would you like to build spiritually? That's a great way to look at the mystic rectangles. Those planets actually, and making those rectangles are actually in good aspect with each other. They're trines and sextiles. So it's like
Yeah.
it's good building.
That's such a great way to say it. Like, for instance, looking at Juno, because the asteroids do make it. And the asteroid of Juno is of marriage traditionally, but that's our alliances. Colette Baron Reed talks about it as our alliances, which I like so much. And so here, your alliances you can look at it in several ways because each one makes a mystic triangle with two. So with the one, Juno is looking at your philosophies or your belief structures, and then going to the moon of the feelings and past and our emotional structure. And then it's going with our mojo, our forward action. But on the other hand, Juno, our alliances, is innovative with sudden new, well, not inspired, but revelations, you could say. Could be shocks too. There's two ways. But again, back with the moon, but here on a healing basis. So there's this toggle, each one, a lot of strength, I think, in that, which it kind of helps us. I mean, I think of it as if we're on a raft, there isn't one wave that's going to topple us. We stay floating somehow.
I am curious about your spiritual journey. I'm looking at Chiron opposite Neptune, Uranus, and just the whole configurations itself. I'm just kind of curious if you could speak a little bit about that, or you don't have to, don't want to.
Yeah. Spiritually, so I kind of take myself out of labels. But I do like healing work. I do astrology. I do cards. I'm a psychic medium, all the things.
Oh.
But in my mind, I'm like, those are labels that I don't really want to associate with. I just want to be an artist. So for me, like my spiritual journey is literally just drawing or painting or beading. And when doing that, I kind of lose track of who I am in this body. So just this last year, a piece of my art was featured downtown where I live. And it was a huge deal. I'm like, I've never had this type of art installation in this capacity of something that I made that was super detailed and beautiful, and it has a lot of ties to my heritage. And so it was kind of like cathartic for me. I'm like, I'm an artist. But yeah.
Thank you, John, for asking. Thank you, Metzel, because it just shouts so much here of that soul work and depths. And so the fact that it's being transmuted into this creative art, as a whole, is very beautiful.
And it's interesting too, because you've got your midheaven is square your nodes. And so this is like a big part of your journey on this lifetime is resolving any issues around how you show up out in the world. And that midheaven is conjunct Neptune. So there is going to be some type of spiritual or artistic even components to that. So the fact that you're like working through that and having your artwork shown, that's very much 10th house. So it's beautiful to see. I also like that. So the midheaven in Capricorn, it often leads to careers in very traditional landscapes. So not surprising that you do. I think you said medical work. I don't quite remember. Yeah, that's a traditional area, but of course you're going to do it in your own way, and it doesn't have to be like the end all be all of your career or your purpose, right? And the ruler of that midheaven, Saturn, is in that really forward thinking Sagittarius conjunct Uranus. So totally doing it your own way, breaking free from the prescribed notions of what you should be doing. So beautiful kind of pathway on your journey through the nodes.
I like that the ruler is also in the 9th house, which brings up philosophy and travels to foreign countries or learning about foreign cultures.
Or bringing your own culture into visibility,
yes,
because exactly. So often I think any of us can feel like, well, particularly in this day and age, what are we part of? And
but Aquarian, definitely feel that I definitely feel that in this year, like growing into am I allowed to share these things about my people and my culture as an Indigenous person? Do I know enough? Do I have permission to share these things? And so now I'm like, well, I'm just going to do it.
Yes. That there is a lot. Thank you, Metzel, for bringing that up, because I haven't that kind of lineage. I mean, not really. I mean, my own lineage my dad came from Norway and all this, so there is a certain history there, but yet I don't feel that sense of responsibility. But I do to astrology. And so I recognize in that very abstract way, I've been wanting to just say things about mythology, my interpretations or my feelings. And I'm beginning to get like, you know what? Let's just do it. And people, because if
it feels appropriate too for the Pluto transition from Capricorn into Aquarius. And that with Capricorn, we're often looking up at the hierarchy and at the people at the top to tell us, what's correct. And they're the authorities, right? And with Aquarius, we're shifting that so that everybody has a voice. And maybe not everybody's voice is going to resonate with everybody else's, but if you get it out there, it's going to resonate with somebody.
And it has to, because you have Juno and Aquarius, which is being the queen of the community. It's like you belong there in some way, in some fashion. You'll find that tribe out there. I also want to talk about you're in a 12th house perfection year until your birthday, which is a Neptune house. So there might be this during this previous birth year, you've wanted to maybe hide out, do art, and be kind of hidden. And at this next birthday, you go into a first house perfection year ruled by, looks like Mars, which is going to be this real shift of energy into being out there in the world, I think. So it's interesting to think about.
That's definitely something that I'm like, it's been on my mind. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm prepared to be.
Well, not yet.
Yeah.
So perhaps the work you're doing now is perhaps preparing you for that first house debut, whatever that is.
And I think that leads into a lot of these transits happening, because I noticed that in a month, for instance, your sense of your Jupiter, which is rooted in the Taurus of form and values and the material of resource, survival and music, all kinds of things. But it's going to be in direct opposition to your natal Pluto, which is so strong in the chart because, it's in Scorpio too, which rules your sun. And actually, Pluto is really, you could say, conjunct the sun. I mean, it's wide, but for sun and Pluto, it's conjunct. So that's going to be in a month, a very impetus plateau of recognition of however you work with it. And then later in March, we get that eclipse, which is going to be 5 degrees, which is only 2 degrees from your descendant and opposite the ascendant. So that'll be another, eclipses shut the light off and then you see it again. And it's a process. What can we say? It's a process. But
and it will, thanks, Sue. It will also, that the eclipse, it's meant to either get you a little bit more on your path, or if you're already there, it's going to propel you forward with more speed. So this may be a piece for you where it's like, it's going to get you ready for November, for that first house perfection year. And the fact that you just had a Venus return, which rules that descendant. So this is all big shifting and changing, and it hasn't quite even gelled yet, is my guess.
And going back to Neptune in the 12th that John brought up, Neptune's job is to dissolve and make things that are sure, unsure, because it has a whole different trajectory. It has spirit that's involved with our co-relationship, the inner self of connection. So you're in this huge process, because the rest, starting August on, that south node that is really approaching, and because of the eclipse season, it's going to stay hovering over that descendant until finally you have a nodal return. So that means flash back 18 and a half years. Check out when your other returns were. What was the theme happening? And it's something with relationships, of course. It's beginning and ending. So here it's a relationship with yourself. So what we're trying to say is it's good to be vulnerable and realize, no, I'm not quite ready, but the universe is conspiring to help you, I think.
And the nodal transits will go into the 6th, 12th axis, which is like discipleship and spirituality and setting up regimens and finding like an ashram where you can have peace. So
and letting go of certain ones, like they're not working.
Yeah.
These people aren't supporting it. Scorpio is so good at saying, sorry. I don't even know if it says sorry. It's like, nope, we're gone.
Might be kind of cool when the nodes hit Neptune and Juno. Wow.
Oh, where is that? Let's see.
They're going backwards, so they'll hit the 12th, 6th, and you have Juno and Neptune there. Well, I guess Juno might have moved along a little bit, but Neptune will be there on the north node. I love that.
Yeah, it'll be a nodal. I just experienced my nodal return, and it's a whole process. It's like, well, fine, I know it's happening, but what's it doing? But it's that whole journey of contacts and people and the kaleidoscope. Here we go of, changing the prism to get new pictures. The process.
Well, and everything that you said, Metzel, as well, it sounds like you're really working your Mars in Libra, because you're doing your own thing, but you're finding that balance of how to do it and how to make it as win-win as possible with that Libra energy. So you're working it, and it looks like you're on your path, and I'm just excited for how this kind of progresses for you.
And that brings up the fact, since we are talking about the transit of Pluto ingress, and noticing that in this chart, Venus transiting Venus, see, there's natally, Uranus is sextile in that. Wait a minute, Sue. I begin to morph too much here, don't I? Yeah, no, that's not right. Well, at any rate, what was I looking at that you just said? Oh, that's right. We're not looking at what's circled in the circle. We're looking at Mars, the next little red spot, folks, over here. It's sextile. That means it's a connective energy with Uranus. So you intuitively just kind of your own spark plug. But what I'm getting at is that the ruler in this chart, Venus, is smack dab on top. So yeah, it's supporting what Amanda's saying about your leadership of waking up to the values of that want to shift.
Are you familiar with the planet Eris or the goddess Eris in mythology? Yeah. So I do belong, she says, as she throws out the golden apple. Well, you have Chiron conjunct that right now, and I think it's healing for you to think about that you do belong. This is a chance to step into the court at Olympus and say, hey, don't forget me. Right?
Yeah, it's exclusion and inclusion. Good call. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you.
I've been doing a lot of DEI work and making sure that people like me are included by also saying, like, you cannot do this to me over the last year, and making sure that my voice is heard as a person of color, as a queer person, as a non-binary person. And so getting into that, those spaces, it was very uncomfortable at first. And now it's like, okay, I'm commanding my energy. I'm commanding my voice to be heard, type of thing. And also making space for other people. Just last week, I kind of realized, if I mess up, then I'm not only learning from my own mistakes, but I'm also providing steps for other people to improve.
Wow.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And then showing yourself the grace of being okay to make mistakes is also, that's another way of providing another way of showing people how to be a leader in the world.
Yeah, these energies are waning, and exactly what you've said. And then bottom line, looking at that Chiron transiting in this chart, connecting exactly with your natal Eris, because I think we were talking about Eris, and that's what John was saying. You're walking your talk. It's really strong and empowering. So I thank you, Metzel, for joining us and waiting.
I was going to say, I'm going to embody the Juno energy down with the patriarchy.
Yeah. You've waited since March, and I know your schedule didn't work, but this is where it's like the universe said, now's the time. And I thank you. It's been beautiful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Metzel.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for joining. And remember, please sign up. Go to talkcosmos.com. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you, John.
Thank you both. Good to be here.
Wonderful session.
Be here with you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we'll see you next month. And yes, indeed. Okay, and many blessings for your shining in your leadership, folks. We can all work at it together. Okay.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.